It is Thursday, April 17th, and President Trump taking on the Federal Reserve this morning, clashing with Fed Chair Jerome Powell. The media livid, flailing around, screaming Trump's destroying these long-held institutions. Yeah, we'll show you just how much of a myth this really is. Also, new polling out showing Trump beating the pants-off Democrats on immigration. Huge net positive for Trump. And CNN flabbergasted to see the vast majority of this country, get this, doesn't only want mass deportations, but wants every last illegal sent home. And the walls continue closing in on New York AG Leticia James, now facing up to 20 years in prison. And the evidence piling up. New video showing the home she listed as her primary residence, most certainly not her primary residence. And more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So in 1965, when LBJ made the decision to go to war against Vietnam, made the decision to deploy the U.S. Armed Forces, sending in multiple Marine battalions, sending our sons and daughters to fight and die, all in the effort to contain communism, he had broad public support. A few years later, that changed, but in 1965, Americans largely supported the war. But wars are expensive. They are inherently inflationary. To fund his war, LBJ proceeded to pressure the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates as low as possible and to pump out new dollars to fund his war machine. The Fed resisted. All of that culminating in President Johnson summoning the Fed chair, Martin, to his private Texas ranch and, get this, physically assaulting him. Yes, in 1965, that really happened. The President of the United States was so angry at the Fed, he summoned the chairman to his house, shoving him around his living room, screaming in his face. This is all public record. So when the media today is all up in arms, losing their minds that the Federal Reserve is supposed to be an independent institution outside the president's grasp, well, there's decades of precedent that says otherwise. This morning, President Trump taking to Truth Social saying the ECB, the European Central Bank's expected to cut rates for the 7th time, and yet too late Jerome Powell of the Fed, who's always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the U.S. is getting rich on tariffs. Too late Powell should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. The media losing their minds over that, over Trump giving his opinion on Truth Social, a far stretch from LBJ throwing the Fed chair across his living room. In the last 2 months, Trump's managed to upend the post-World War II economic orthodoxy. Trump taking us on a different path, a completely new path that puts Main Street over Wall Street, puts Americans over foreigners, a system that no longer will sell this country out to China, but stands up to China, no longer treating them like a favored nation or a third world developing nation, but a real competitor. This morning, Trump was asked about China, asked if he's worried that they've already met with 3 of our closest allies. Trump saying no, they can talk to whomever they like, nobody can compete with the United States, and that there will be a deal struck with China sooner than later, a fair deal that fixes the $1 trillion trade deficit that we've been living with. Watch this.
You have said in the past that you aren't worried about allies growing closer to China as a result of your tariffs. And this week we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit with 3 of our allies. Should you be worried that they're growing closer?
No. Nobody can compete with us. Nobody.
You said that you have a good relationship with President Xi. Why not pick up the phone and call him and make a deal?
Oh, we're going to make a deal. We'll have a deal. I think we're going to make a very good deal with China.
Do you plan to reach out to him?
I think that you will see we'll make a very good deal with China.
In another story, the Trump administration continues to see broad popular support on their immigration policy. Numbers released this week show apprehensions at the southern border have fallen over 95% since March of last year, something Biden and Dems said was impossible, only solvable, they said, with an act of Congress, meaning through an act of God, which was false. Trump has effectively sealed the southern border. Gallup releasing new polling around this topic, asking Americans if they approve of Trump's handling of the border and of immigration, and the results were shocking. Huge, broad approval for the way he's handling illegal immigration. Above water, bigly, beating the pants off Joe Biden, but also, and this was incredible, they asked, do you support deporting 100% of the undocumented migrants in this country? The answer was shocking. Roll the tape.
Why is Trump focusing on immigration? Let me just tell you, this is where Trump wants to focus. Pretty please, with a cherry on top. Why is that? Look at Trump's net approval rating on immigration. Compare where we are now, compare where we were at this point in his first term. In his first term, he was underwater at minus 12 points. Look at where he is today. He's actually above water. This is one of his strongest issues at plus 1 point. And more than that on the net approval for him on this issue has stayed steady in the positive. This is an area where Donald Trump wants to focus, because the bottom line is this is an area in which the American people, at least the bare majority of them, seem to like what he's doing.
And you've shown the impact on how people feel about his handling of the economy and what he's been doing. So let's stay here with this. Compare where he is on immigration to where Biden was. We know that this was why he leaned into immigration so much.
Yes, this is a big reason why. So take a look here. This is on immigration. What track are we on? The right track or the wrong track? Look in December. Look at the percentage who said we were on the wrong track. 62% of Americans when Joe Biden was in office, compared to just 14% who said that we were on the right track. Flash forward to April. Well, hello. 45% say we're on the right track compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track. So in a big switcheroo from where we were back in January, the plurality of Americans say that the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy. Back in December when Joe Biden was president, the vast majority said that we were on the wrong track. Again, this points out that on the whole, Americans like where we're going on immigration policy under Donald Trump, which is very different from where we were under Joe
Biden. On the
Biden.
specific issue of deportations, I mean, compare it maybe today Trump to first-term Trump.
Yeah, this, I think, is the big change. You know, we were talking about changes in policy and how Americans want policy to be carried out. Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority, the American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump. And I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive, very much unlike his first term.
And if you've noticed what the media's been doing, knowing that Trump's above water on this issue, on immigration, they choose to focus 99% of their coverage on Abrigo Garcia's deportation. One person, instead of the overwhelming success story of stopping the invasion in its tracks. CNN is one of the worst of the big corporate networks, because they pretend they're unbiased. CNN hates Donald Trump. Even their panels are stacked 6, 7, 8 against 1. They have one person with an alternate point of view, Scott Jennings, who is a beast, by the way. Watch him here completely unravel this narrative. CNN's defense of Abrigo Garcia, completely debunking it. Watch.
If this president and this administration can accuse somebody of being a terrorist and accuse any one of us of being a terrorist and do with us what they will, there's due process that exists in this country for everybody. And the fact that this man had received no due process, was effectively disappeared to a foreign country, a country which he came from, which he was basically he got asylum.
Foreign country. He lives there.
Excuse me, no, he does not live there.
He's a citizen of El Salvador.
Scott, excuse me, he got asylum in this country.
He's a citizen.
Scott,
does he have asylum?
Excuse me, let me finish.
No, he doesn't.
No, it's not that he.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not that he got asylum. He got a judge to say that he could not be.
Does he have a deportation order?
Excuse me, he could not be. Can you let me finish? He could not be rendered back to El Salvador because he was at risk of being harmed in El Salvador.
By
That is what
who?
a federal judge. That is what a federal judge.
By who? No, who was he at risk of?
Excuse me. That was what a federal judge said.
Who's
could not be
at risk of being harmed by? I'm asking you.
Who could he be at risk by? I don't know. But
Rival gangs.
No, not
rival
gangs. No. Excuse me. Stop. Excuse me. Stop. Do you really believe that this guy's an MS-13 member? Because
I got two heads of state telling me that they.
No.
Believe it.
Okay. Your heads of state.
Let
Okay.
me
Barack
just
Obama
let me
said that.
address what.
Yet they continue talking about it day after day after day. Something I believe will backfire on Democrats. They're taking the side of returning illegal criminals to our country, which is a losing issue. In another story, Secretary of State Rubio has shut down the State Department's Global Engagement Center, a bloated $50 million a year operation that spent its time over the last 4 years trying to silence American citizens, tagging Americans they didn't like as domestic threats, and having the social media companies shadow ban them, suspend their accounts, even completely deplatform them. They did this for years. Now, we've known about this broadly, but the Trump administration zeroed in with the help of Elon Musk, identifying exactly who was responsible, that being the GEC, a division of the State Department. Marco Rubio yesterday explaining how he's notified Congress that he has already eliminated all full-time staff positions and 100+ contractors at the Global Engagement Center, officially shutting it down. Watch.
Something very historic transpired today. Could you tell the American people what that was?
Well, we ended government-sponsored censorship in the United States through the State Department, and let me explain how we get there. This started out, 10 years ago with this effort of let's go after the messaging that Al-Qaeda and ISIS and others are putting to radicalize people. No, who's going to be against that? That sounds normal. And then it was like in 2016, we had this foreign interference in our election. We need to start targeting some of that stuff. By 2020, it had grown into this movement of actually going after individual American voices. And one of the ways that was being done wasn't just directly, because the guy that was running this thing, Stengel, was actually a guy that was out there saying, Donald Trump talks just like a Russian spy. He talks just like a terrorist. Right. And so do the people around him. But they were also taking money from this program and using it to fund these NGOs, these third-party groups who were supposed to be impartial. Those groups were then tagging. They were literally tagging and labeling voices in American politics, Ben Shapiro, the Federalist, others, tagging them as foreign agents. So you look at it and say, American taxpayers, through the State Department, were paying groups to attack Americans and to try to silence the voice of Americans. And there were consequences. These weren't just a label they put on people. Some of these people got deplatformed, they got taken down, they couldn't communicate. So it was outrageous. So before President Trump took over, they disbanded this unit. They just renamed it and moved it somewhere else. But now, over the last few months, we've worked on it and just taken it down. And to the extent we're spending money now, we are going to spend money on messaging. It's going to be pro-American messaging, and it's going to be incentivizing and protecting free speech, which is threatened in all over the world, including countries that are allies of ours.
Let me know in the comments if you think this should be a much bigger story, that there should be way more attention paid to this. This was the American government actively violating our Constitution, silencing and targeting American citizens. There's so much the Trump administration's fixing. Thank you, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. In another story, corrupt New York AG Leticia James, feeling the walls closing in, now facing a criminal referral for clear-cut mortgage fraud, according to the Federal Housing Authority. Pam Bondi now using the referral to possibly launch a full-blown criminal investigation into Leticia James. This is the same AG who brought a fraud suit against Trump for falsifying business records, quote-unquote, now allegedly caught falsifying business records to get herself a more favorable loan. Here she was responding after Fox broke this news that she's under the microscope, appearing to be more than a bit rattled. Watch her here.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2. until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies, it's up to us. We saved this democracy before, we'll save it now. Let's go!
Yeah, she seems a bit nervous, upset, unstable even, considering she's the highest law enforcement officer in New York, feeling the pressure as the press digs into these allegations. The Daily Caller visiting the home in question, the home that she swore was her primary residence on her loan application. Well, if it's her primary residence, why does she appear to have tenants living there? Watch.
Hi there. I'm a reporter with the Daily Caller News Foundation.
Goodbye. You're trespassing.
I'm sorry.
Trespassing. My kids are out here.
I understand. We mean no trouble. We're just curious who the occupants of the home are,
Don't worry about who's occupants. That's none of your business.
Well, there are connections. There are connections to New York Attorney General Leticia James.
That doesn't matter. You're trespassing.
Are you related to Leticia James?
Do you know her? You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know Leticia James? No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you, ma'am.
Don't come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
It's gonna be problems.
You will. Be well.
There's a car parked in the driveway.
Hello there, ma'am.
No comment. You're trespassing.
No comment?
Yeah, you're trespassing.
Okay, well, who lives here?
You're trespassing.
Who lives here, ma'am?
No comment. Okay.
And let's not forget, because of Leticia James' lawsuit, Trump was ordered to pay $454 million, a completely partisan judgment, a completely partisan case, the judgment which is currently on appeal. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.